Everyone, we are live in our group and I've got Nicola and Glynis here tonight from Northern Education and Training, but that's just one of their companies that they own and operate. And today we're going to talk all about apprenticeships and apprentices, and let me just turn that down. All about the apprenticeship schemes and the ins and outs, how to find yourself an apprentice, how to enroll an apprentice, the funding, all kinds of things available. So if you have any questions, then please put them in the chat. I'm monitoring the group as well, so I can see your questions as and when they come in. So welcome Nicola and Glynis. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Very well, thanks.
You're good, excellent. So maybe we can start off with how you two got into business, and maybe tell us about your the relationship between you two. I think that's quite interesting.
It's very interesting sometimes. So we are mother and daughter. You started dog grooming, didn't you, back in the day in your garage?
Yeah, 2012 I started dog grooming. I thought it'd be a good idea to do a couple of days a week to earn a little bit of extra money, and then it sort of expanded into 9 grooming salons, which we've ended up franchising out. And then we've gone on. Nikki joined me. You were a school teacher to begin with, weren't you?
I graduated as a teacher in 2011.
I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Did that for a few years, and then come and knocked on your door to train me, didn't I?
You'd had enough. You'd had enough of teaching.
Yeah, I loved like the classroom side of it. It was all the bits and bobs that went along with it. I just didn't like it, and at least the dogs couldn't answer me back, which was always a bonus.
And they kind of did what they were told. I think you'll find there's quite a few teachers that turn to dog grooming. There's quite a few teachers in the group at the moment who have taken up dog grooming.
We have quite a lot that come to us to do training, don't we? So.
Yeah, and our staff as well. We have like a lot of teachers as well as dog groomers, so it's nice to sort of for them, because they're still doing the teaching, but they're obviously working with dogs as well, which is good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you grew quite quickly, really. If you started in 2012 grooming, and 9 shops or 9 salons within that many years, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't know what I was doing really. I just sort of it just steamrolled ahead and spiraled, and then I thought, because I was doing the Tallington Tea Touch as well, I decided then to open up the training academy, so that I'm passionate about the handling of the dogs. So I thought, well, if we get these students right from the beginning and get the foundations correct of the handling, then that would be a nice way of sort of introducing tea touch into the grooming industry. So we made that, myself and Dawn Harkin made that into an OCN accredited course. And then of course Nicola was sort of really pushing for the apprenticeships, weren't you?
Yeah.
Because we were sort of struggling to, well, our apprentices were not liking the idea of travelling 2 hours to go to a college, where they really...
No, so I worked as an assessor, an animal care assessor for a college, and because I did want to get sort of back into education, but not sort of standing in the classroom. And then I think the main reason we decided to do it was that we liked the colleges that our apprentices went to were brilliant, and the staff are very, very knowledgeable. But I think it was kind of, didn't matter what sort of industry you're in, whether you're in dog grooming, boarding, catteries, it was all kind of, everyone was getting the same sort of work, and we kind of wanted to be able to tailor it to dog groomers or doggy daycare, and kind of give more of a tailor-made delivery for our apprentices to get as much out of the apprenticeship as they can.
Because some of them weren't keen on going to the college when they were saying they learnt more in the workplace. So to get them to go to college was becoming quite challenging, and this is what we ended up, that they were trying to sort of jump out of the apprenticeship, and we didn't want to lose them as a member of staff because they did the job correctly and they were passionate with the job, but they were really sort of rebelling against going to college and saying, I don't want to, you know, feed guinea pigs today and this type of thing. So we just wanted to do it ourselves so that we could just tailor make it a little bit. Obviously there are units in the animal care that you do have to cover, but we're sort of expanding more on the grooming units and just making the other units a bit more smaller.
Yeah,
you kind of pulled on your sort of background in teaching, Nicola, to then start up your education and training company. And was that quite difficult to set it up and get it going? Was there loads involved, or?
It took us about 3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Lots of late nights, early mornings, I suppose.
Arguments. Would you believe?
Yes. We did lots of sort of teams meetings with each other till 2 o'clock in the morning, didn't we? And yeah, it was really fun as well. Yeah. We have a laugh about it now anyway.
Was it quite stressful then, was it?
It was, but it was like, I think because we both really wanted it, we just wanted to get it right and get everything as good as we could before we sort of threw it out there to everybody.
Yeah, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to you know, get it right. And Nicola, especially with being in education, she's a stickler. And I think, to be honest, I frustrate her sometimes. Don't I?
No comment.
No cutting corners. So you've got your pet groomers, you've got a pet grooming training school, and you've got your Tellington T-Touch education as well, and now you've got your Northern Education and Training Company, which provides these apprenticeships. So what, let's start at the basics. What would you define as an apprentice? What is an apprentice?
So an apprentice is sort of somebody that you have in the workplace who is going to learn and gain experience whilst they're being paid. They're a paid member of staff. They're classed as an employee, and they still have like the same benefits as all other employees, but they get this training provided whilst they're working. So because of that, obviously their sort of minimum wage is lower than that of, you know, if you just went and got a job.
It's altered now as well, hasn't it? They are work-based now, whereas before they used to have to go to the college.
Some still go to college. We do ours 100% work-based. So
most of them do, don't they now?
Yeah, so there is a requirement that the employer does have to allow them sort of 20% of their working time to do specific training or do some of their work. But I think a lot of employers, us included at first, were really sort of found that really daunting, because that's effectively a day a week, isn't it? That you're having to give them. But there's lots of different things that you can make
slot
up
it in, can't you?
That OTJ hours, so they're off the job hours, that 20% can be kind of done naturally throughout the working day. So if they're learning something new, how to cut a dog's nails, or they're shadowing another member of staff while they're grooming a certain dog, that all classes towards that 20%. So it's not a case where you have to kind of take them away and sit them down and make them do some work. It's just any sort of new learning that they're doing, or shadowing, or, you know, just watching other members of staff, that does count as that 20%. So it's not as kind of daunting as what it does sound initially. But I think that, like, in all fairness, they do deserve that sort of time. They are getting cheap. You're getting cheap labour, and that's kind of what you're taking on, is you are committing to train that person up as well. So whilst we will, whatever training provider you use will kind of focus on all their theory stuff, and we will help and guide towards gathering that practical evidence. That is kind of where the employer's role comes into it effectively, is that they have got to sort of help them
Yeah,
gather.
they have a responsibility
Yeah.
to make sure that the learner does get that sort of off the job hours.
So how old do these people need to be? Can they be any age, or is it for young people?
So it can be from 16. There isn't an age sort of cap on an apprenticeship. So I think that's kind of a bit of a misconception that people have, is that you have to be a school leaver. You can, an adult can do an apprenticeship.
You just don't get as much funding if they're over 20. Is it 24 now? Is it, or
no, over 18.
over 18? The funding isn't as much.
So
Okay.
to put it simply, let's take animal care. It costs £5,000 to put an apprentice through an animal care apprenticeship, and that's for their training and assessment. And if they're 18 and under, that is 100% funded by the ESFA. So some of our employers who might be watching, they might remember, yourself included, Bill, reserving the funding. So that's reserving the money to pay for that apprentice. If they're over 18, you only get 95%. So the employer has to pay the remaining 5% of the funding, which is what, like £250.
It's a small. It's a small contribution, isn't it? So
it is when you look at what you're paying in wages.
Yeah. So an apprentice is classed as an employee, and you have an apprenticeship agreement with them. How long do you need to have that agreement with them for?
Minimum of 12 months.
And a day.
Yeah. We normally do ours over 13 months, just in case we go over. So the apprenticeship wage is £4.30 up to the 12 months, and then after then you go onto the national minimum wage.
And that's regardless of their age as well. So if they're 20, they still get, you only sort of, what's the word I'm looking for?
You still get the minimum.
Yeah, you only have to pay that £4.30.
Yes.
Irrespective
of what
age. So you're only obliged. That's what I was meant to say. You can pay them more if you want to, personal choice. But then after the 12 months is up, if they're still on their apprenticeship,
and legally you've got to pay them minimum wage,
the correct minimum wage for their age.
Yeah. So you hire an apprentice. Do you do interviews? Do you interview the people that you take on? You can run. It's like a selection process, I'm assuming. You can put out an advert.
If us as employers, if we were taking on an apprentice, we'd sort of do our own interviewing, and we do the selection process ourselves. And then before we became a training provider, we would then just kind of bring up training provider and get them enrolled and set up. As a training provider, we can interview on your behalf if you want us to. But to be honest, we kind of stay away from that, because I think it's important that the employer does it and make sure that everyone's requirements are different.
Yeah, we can sift out some, the sort of the ones that appear more sort of in line with what you're looking for, if an employer really does want us to do that. But most of them tend to want to do their own interviews, to be honest, and I get that. I would like to do mine.
So we select our apprentice. So we went through an interview process, and we whittled it down to 3 people. We had to do the interviews over Zoom, obviously because of COVID, and then we invited 2 of them into the shop just to do like a morning with us, just to make sure that they were suitable and fitted in with the team. So then we got an apprenticeship agreement drawn up, and we applied for funding through yourself. So our apprentice hasn't actually cost us anything, because she's 17 years old, so we get the full 100% funding, don't we?
Yes.
And then she's gone on to minimum wage. What would you say? What apprenticeships does your company offer, first of all?
Okay, so our most popular one is it goes without saying, doesn't it? It's animal care. We do like an assessor coach apprenticeship as well, which is quite a nice one that you can progress onto from finishing, say, like your animal care one. It's a good one to do. Any members of staff to do if they're responsible for sort of any staff training, or if you've got a grooming school and you want somebody to come and help tutor in there. It's assessor coach one.
We've got a few staff on that, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. We've put quite a few of our staff on in sort of our managers of our salons are doing them ones, because it helps. It's just gives them a bit of a hand on the training side of things, and
how to approach the apprentices, because we're leaving our managers to train the apprentices, so it's really sort of good for them to know how to deal with the apprentice and train them. It gives them that skill set. It's all very well, they know how to groom, but it just gives them that little bit more information, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it helps them as well, like, because a lot of our salon managers have grown with us from apprentices, so they've been an apprentice and they've not kind of been in a role where they've necessarily done any training or, you know, come from an educational background. And when you have got these apprentices, it just gives them that bit of understanding
and confidence as well, isn't it?
And really? I think it's really helpful for them, because I do think a lot of them have a lot higher expectations of what that apprentice should and can do. And it kind of makes them think of them more as a learner rather than just a member of staff.
Or they're skivvy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I completely understand. Having been sort of in the grooming world for 16 years, and we've taken on quite a few apprentices, and we've seen staff sort of say, oh, they're so slow, or they're like not doing this yet. And it's like, well, you know, we've all got to start somewhere, and it's having that understanding, isn't it? And then maybe understanding that people learn in different ways as well. So being able to tailor how you teach them as well, isn't it?
Oh, very much so.
We also do like a level 5 business management one as well, which again is another nice one to progress onto again. We've only got a few on that at the moment, haven't we?
We're so busy with the animal care, we've not sort of concentrated on that just yet.
So tell us about the animal care apprentice, because most people watching tonight are probably owners of pet groomers, and they're probably really, really busy, and they're looking to maybe sign on. So an apprentice is a good way to start going down the employment route. What's the animal care apprenticeship involve?
So, well, obviously, hopefully, touch wood, by the end of the year we will have the dog grooming apprenticeship. It's not ready, it's not out yet, but as soon as it is, we will be delivering that as well. The animal care one is more about sort of like prep work, isn't it? Washing, drying, look at about the welfare, health checking.
It does depend as well on the actual employer, because like so with us we do fast track our apprentices. It depends on the actual apprentice as well, doesn't it? Because obviously you know there's ones that will really soak it up, like we've got a 17-year-old young apprentice and she's just grooming now. Others take more time, so it's down to the individual learner, I think. And but the main thing is that they do the prep work, and they can do a bit of rough clipping. They don't have to learn to groom within that 12 months, do they?
There's no obligation in the animal care apprenticeship to be a groomer by the end of it. It's all about the care and the welfare of the animals. So the dog groomers, we've fitted that more around the prep work, and we've got another sort of route off it about dealing with customers and like more the sort of reception side of it as well.
And then we give them courses on the canine first aid to do, just to give them that information about pesting, you know, your parasites and all the obvious things that they've got to learn.
We do also embed in our animal care qualification an OCN accredited certificate in Talent and T-Touch, which is done through an online course as well. which is kind of a bit sort of something a bit different that we do to other colleges, I think.
It's a bit unique to you, isn't it? Yeah. So so we take our apprentice on, and we sign our apprentice up to animal care. Is it level 2 animal care? Well, yeah. And then they're given like an online portal. How does that work? They've got structure, haven't they?
Yeah. Yes. So it's we use OneFile, which is like an e-portfolio system, which is, it's a bit hard to kind of get used to at first. I think if you're not used to it, it's kind of, well, not to you, but it's second nature to me now.
It hurts my head sometimes, I'm not going to lie. I'm getting there.
But it's brilliant. It can be accessed anywhere by the apprentice. There is an app for it as well, so they can work on their phone offline. So anything that they can access it completely all offline, and then when they get somewhere with Wi-Fi, they can sync it, and then it'll all update it back into real time. And then the employer can have a profile on there as well, so they can come on and check, you know, where the learner's up to, if they've got any work outstanding.
And pop comments on the reviews and whatnot.
Yeah, so, and as well, there is, we're doing a Teams meeting with our employers in, is it a week? 17th, just to go through how they can really maximise OneFile to help their apprentices, because there's like little learning journal function on there where they can go on and write a witness testimony if they've seen their apprentice do something really good, and you can link it to the criteria of the apprenticeship and help mark off their progress and help mark off some of their work for them. It is really good. If we have applied for some funding to get some laptops for people that haven't got access to one, but if they don't, or they really struggle, we can give them the work paper based as well. Until we're hoping to be able to get some laptops that we can know now, aren't we? Yeah. As soon as possible, really.
So the apprentice gets allocated an e-portfolio, and they have to go into that and do modules. Do they write essays or answer questions?
Yeah, so it's not. We try to keep it as minimal, sort of, not feeling like you're writing a big assignment. So there's sort of, it's all broken down into short questions and answers. Some of it's like set out like an online course of multiple choice answers. We try to make it as accessible as possible. Really.
Plenty of resources.
Lots of videos to watch.
And PowerPoints and that. Which I think is important. So basically they'll have a PowerPoint, and then they'll have the Q&As. So you know, they've got some sort of structure. They're not just left floundering to try and Google the answers, because we have had that.
We get a lot of the same work through. Yeah. It's normally the first 2 things that you can click on Google.
Yeah.
Right. So they update their e-portfolio, and how much involvement does the employer have with the portfolio? How much do they employ?
As little or as much as they like. Obviously, we want to try and encourage employees to go on and have a look and add comments, and it's a nice way, because I think sometimes when, I know, like, I've been in work with my apprentices, and if you've had a bad or a busy day and you kind of forget to give them that pat on the back at the end of the day, it's a nice thing to do when you've gone home and reflect on the day and thought, oh, do you know what, they dealt really well with that difficult dog, and it's somewhere nice where you can go on and put a nice comment and give them some of your own positive feedback, and at the same time it's contributing towards their apprenticeship certificate at the end. So you can have sort of as little or as much as you want, but we are trying to start to encourage our employees to get more involved in it. But we do also understand that they are equally as busy.
It's fast-paced dog grooming, isn't it? So it's really hard. You know, we've all been there, where, you know, you're up to your knees in dog hair, and the last thing you want to do when you go home is then start looking on the computer. But I have to say, it does get a bit addictive when you do start looking. We've got a few employers that are sort of looking at the progress, and I'll get little messages, how are they doing, and they are really, you know, getting involved in it, which is nice to see.
Yeah, as an employer, you're investing in a person, aren't you? You're
Yeah, very
you're
much.
you're paying for them to do their qualification with you. So it's good to have a vested interest. And I'm assuming you can take photos of what they've done and videos of what they've done and upload it onto
It's
the portal
Yeah,
for them.
definitely.
just like video them with a customer, or on the phone taking a booking, depending on how they do it. But it's then they can just pop it on the learning journal. But they then, like, if I get my staff to take videos, and then I can go on and have a little look at what they're doing in the day, which is quite nice. It just depends on how that some businesses are one-to-one, like they may have just the employer and the apprentices, and others may not be as involved, and then they can go and see all the evidence, which is good to see as you go along.
Yeah. So your apprentice has got this sort of structured portfolio to go down and to go through, but it doesn't stop you from training them as well. It doesn't stop you from using them as bathers. Start looking at like the nail trimming and the prepping of the prep work. Just because they've got this structured portfolio, they can do other stuff within your business.
Straight away, mine, as soon as they come through the door, they shadow the more sort of experienced apprentice, and we have them shadowing, and then straight away, sort of maybe after a few days, washing the dog, and then they'll get the confidence up and maybe do a bit of nail clipping. And you want them hands-on. It's practical, isn't it, at the end of the day, the job. So as much as we have got this portfolio where it is very structured, the main thing of dog grooming is practical. So that's a very important part of the job.
So I've spoken to a few people, especially the people that are one-to-one or single groomers, and they're a bit concerned, like, how do they get the time to then teach someone else? They've got really busy pet groomers, and now they've got to take the time to teach someone else. But I kind of said, like you said, well, get your apprentice to watch you first and watch you washing your dog and talk them through it, and then it's kind of like watch one, do one, sort of watch one.
How can they have the time not to have an apprentice, is what I'm
Well,
thinking.
this is it.
I just can't imagine ever working on my own without an apprentice. I did it for about 6 months. It nearly killed me. And there's no question about it. These youngsters, they're like sponges. They pick up very, very quickly. If you get a really passionate youngster, they want to learn, and it's not rocket science to wash a dog, is it? Let's be honest. I mean, okay, we want to do it properly, but we're not asking them to do a massive big degree here. We just want them to wash a dog and get it clean. And you make more money for the sake of 30 odd quid a day. You will make more money. You'll save your back if you're sharing the workload. It's a win-win for me. Definitely.
So I was going to say, what are the benefits? What would you say are the benefits to a business to take on apprentices or an apprentice?
Go on, Nikki. What would you say is the benefits? I know what my benefits are. I mean, I just wouldn't not have an apprentice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a cheap extra pair of hands, really, isn't it? And I like that. It's, to me, and if someone that applies to an apprenticeship position, I think are going to be dedicated to learn as well, because they want to do that job.
I like getting them from the beginning as well, because you can mold them. I mean, 80% of my staff are from being an apprentice. I've had Amy, who has been with me for 10 years. She started right from the beginning, but she literally emulates everything I do, and it's just nice, isn't it? Because they work how you want them to work. So it's a much better.
They pick up your style.
Very much so.
Yeah, they pick up your style.
Yeah, I think as well, like even for your other members of staff, it helps them. And I just always find every time we get a new apprentice, everyone's so excited to have another person help in the salon.
Yeah.
And I like that it's kind of like having fresh meat also, or almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you can kind of grab hold of them and show them how you want to do. Not saying we don't employ people that we haven't had as apprentices.
Yeah.
But we are like very big on using talent and touch, handling, putting the welfare before the haircut. and we have had groomers that have kind of come in with a different attitude. And
we just prefer to get them from the start and train them ourselves. And it's not
it's
like
cost effective as well.
very
isn't it?
cost effective,
Because,
yeah.
you know,
I think it's quite important for people to appreciate that. Yes, you're taking someone on to do a structured educational course for a year, maybe a bit longer, but there's nothing to stop you from keeping those people on afterwards, and then you can start then looking at progressing them through the pet grooming courses as well, isn't there? So you're potentially looking for someone at the beginning when you're doing your interviewing. You're perhaps look beyond the apprenticeship and see if it's someone that you can carry on with employment, because like you said, you can train them and mold them to how you work and how your business's values, can't you?
Well, what we do is after they've been on an apprenticeship, if they want to, we give them the choice. They can then fast track on to doing their level 3 diploma, OCN, and gaining that certification. So that's a nice little journey that they've taken. They've done their apprenticeship, and then they can go on to do they've had that experience for 12 months, and then they learn really quickly at the end. I literally just fast track them to get them grooming, and then they just start making a little portfolio up doing the level 3 OCN.
Yeah.
Depending on what stage they're at, obviously. Like so we've got one now who, as I said to you earlier, she's grooming. She finishes in August, but she's grooming 4 dogs a day. But we run it slightly different because our manager trains them. He does 2 dogs a day and trains them, so it's a little bit of a different setup. You couldn't do that if it was one-to-one in the salon. It would be a lot harder.
Yeah, you kind of have to tailor it to your own needs, don't you? And what you can and can't. Yeah. So as your apprentice goes through their year's apprenticeship with the employer, what sort of support do you offer the employer as the provider?
So we always say, if there's an emergency, call us. We're always at the other end of an email, but we can't always respond immediately. So we always have our phones. We always answer the phone, and we will always ring back if for whatever reason we've missed a call.
Yeah.
But we're just there to sort of, I mean, we end up being like friends with our employers almost, don't we?
Yeah.
Because they'll ring us up at the end of the day and have a vent and
I mean, we are supposed to be with the college 9 to 5, but we have been known to be in this office in our pajamas. I'm trying not to do that, Bill, but you know, every now and again I'll get a phone call off Nicola, we need to do this, that and the other, and somebody wants this done and that. So she'll say, do you fancy going having a coffee? And you know, I'll put the G&T down and get in the car and come in for a couple of hours.
But we do support sort of throughout, like the hiring, if they need any help, the reserving the funding, just right from the start, it is end-to-end support. So
can I just say, though, on the subject of reserving funding, it's really difficult. The feedback I'm hearing is that the employers do get confused with who they go to reserve the funding, and then who they go to. So if I can make it clear, as the our role as the provider is with the training of the apprentices, okay, and supporting them. However, we don't mind helping. We'll send the links and the information out on how to create the apprenticeship account. But if you do get problems, and some have had problems with the account, then my advice is to contact the apprenticeship service, or the helpline there. You can there's a web chat, there's a phone number, free phone, and there's also an inquiry form, because we can only go so far with that account. As I say, we're more than happy to say, this is the link that you go on and this
is how you do it.
Yeah, we'll give them that advice, and we'll give them obviously the UKPRN number, the amount that they have to reserve, etc., etc. But then if you're having difficulties with your PAYE and that sort of thing, it's either your accountant you need to contact, or it is the apprenticeship service.
Yeah, so the reserving the funding for the apprenticeship is basically, if we use animal care as an example, it costs £5,000 for the training and assessment to put an apprentice through an animal care, and that's funded, and it is the employer's responsibility to reserve the funding through the portal. Now, they never used to have to do that. You could just ring up your college and they reserve the funding. It is quite a new thing, but it's to give the employer control. So, for example, let's say you've got an apprentice who's been with a college for 6 months and you're really not happy, they're not making any progress, they've not been set any work, they're not having reviews carried out, the employer can kind of take a bit more control of that now and stop the funding to that training provider and move them to another one and reserve the funding for another training provider. So whilst it is a bit daunting to kind of set up, it is actually a really positive thing, because it does give the employer that control of who is providing the training for their apprentice.
So having just gone through this ourselves with yourselves, so you we did all the application forms, which were quite straightforward. We did it all over, like printed them off and did them on either on a computer or handwrite them. Then you sent us the link over to set up to apply for the funding. It's just another portal login, isn't it? And you just go through, set yourself up as an apprentice provider, is it, or an apprentice?
Just an account.
It's like an
account, wasn't it?
Account, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the confusion comes for people that don't have like a PAYE system set up.
Yeah.
And it's getting all, and that's kind of not our area of expertise, and that's when you do need to kind of go to your accountant, or we can advise as much. We will always give as much advice as we can, but that's not our sort of forte, is it?
No, because you've got to get that information from your accountant.
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't let the fear of that put you off, because it's not overly onerous to sort all that out. It's another government portal where you just register for PAYE and you set your employee up. You are going to be paying a wage. You're going to be paying your apprentice a wage, so you're going to have to be speaking to an accountant or potentially a bookkeeper if they do payroll for you. But once you get all that sorted out and set up, they do it all for you anyway. So again, don't let that fear sort of prevent you from taking on an apprentice.
No.
So I went through and I reserved the £5,000 funding, and then you grabbed our bank details, didn't you? Which is always good, because that means you're going to be sending us some money at some point, or someone's going to be sending us some money at some point.
Some money, it's not us. No, so obviously you get a incentive payment as well. So it's at the moment, because it's been increased. Well, it's split into two. So you get £1,000 incentive payment, which for taking on an employer, but there's now an extra government one. So in total, if they are under 25, so up to 24, you can get up to £3,000. And if they're 25 and over, you can get up to £2,500, and that's paid in instalments sort of throughout the 12-month apprenticeship.
And you can't apply for that until the 1st of June. If you're for any apprentices that have started from April onwards, that's when, just to make that clear, because we have been getting asked that a lot, you can't actually go for the money until it's on your account, but it's not available to apply until the 1st of June.
Yeah, that is another one that doesn't. That's
out of our hands, unfortunately.
We can't control that, but you do get it. But
so in June, I've got to go in and just say, give me my money. And do you get the full amount, or is it dripped in?
It's in stages. Yeah. So I think was our first payment 500?
Yeah, 500 after 90 days.
Yeah. So you get your first £500 after 90 days.
Then we got £1,000 from the government, didn't we?
Yeah.
So a big chunk from the government, which was a nice little surprise. So, but this is all new. Don't forget, because it's just happened with COVID-19. So we sort of were going along the journey as well, weren't we? When we first put our apprentices on, and we're able to get that. We didn't realise that it was going to come like that. But the rest is just in 500 chunks.
And just to make it
budget.
Yeah, and just to make it clear, you know, this funding that the government gives you as an employee goes up and down every year. So some years they have a spurt of funding, don't they, where they give quite a lot of money towards the education sector. I certainly know years ago we were getting apprentices in quite regularly, and then they cut the funding completely.
Yeah.
So we stopped taking on apprentices, but obviously now they've opened the taps again. So now is a really good time to take advantage and take full use of that.
It really does help.
I think for this sort of grant and payment, it's until September.
So yeah, I think it's until September.
As far as I'm aware, I think that's available for anyone that signs up.
They keep increasing it though, don't they?
Yeah.
So we just keep watching, and you never know, might go on after. Be nice.
So as an employer that we've just taken on an apprentice, the lady we've taken on is 17 years old, so it's not cost us anything. We've applied for the full cost of the apprenticeship to be covered by the government, and then in June I go in and apply for that £3,000 bonus from the government, and then we just pay, Natasha is her name, we just pay Natasha £5.30 an hour, and she's full time with us. And again, our accountant sorts out all the PAYE. So it's relatively straightforward, and Natasha then logs onto your portal and carries out the that's set for her.
Yeah. So you're not paying the apprenticeship wage. You're going to give her minimum wage. Am I right? Because you're paying
£4.30 an hour. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said.
I thought you said £5.30.
Oh no. No, £4.30. Because again, that is, I suppose that is, again, it's an incentive to take on people, isn't it, within your business, and it does help small business owners to afford to take people on and into their business.
So
and as
it's one wash and blow a day,
an extra dog a day, we kind of put it as, don't we?
Yeah, so if it makes them able to do an extra dog a day or get an extra wash and blow in a day, then that pays for their apprentice.
But then I go further than that and say, well, okay, maybe in a few months' time, our apprentice will perhaps be doing Labradors and those washes, and then we're charging sort of £45 for a Labrador, and we've got someone who's getting paid £4.30 an hour to do it. So straight away, it starts opening up those margins for you and gives you that extra help and support, don't they?
They are a very good investment. You do get a good return on your investment, I think, of hiring an apprentice, definitely. And
it's satisfying.
Yeah, it is. I think it's nice, isn't it, because you're kind of getting, you're sort of developing the next sort of generation of dog groomers and animal care workers, and sort of bringing the industry up again. I think if they get the good training placement, I think is really important. And
you're not trapped, because you should try and keep that apprentice on until they finish their apprenticeship. But obviously, if there's real concerns or gross misconduct, they can obviously leave your employment, just like any employee. And at the end of the agreement, then you sit down with them and decide whether you can offer them further employment, or whether you say, thank you very much, here's your qualification that you've done with us, and goodbye. So
and they can put it on the CV, so it's good for them that at least they've got something there. Even if you can't give them a job, you're not in that position, you've given them 12 months of work experience and quality training. That's great.
So just going back, sorry, Bill, to the supporting employers, we do 6 weekly reviews of all the apprentices. So that's a nice sort of time, and we can catch up with our employers as well and ask them how everything's going on. Obviously, we are available in between, but if there's no emergency or anything that needs to urgently be brought to our attention, the 6 weekly reviews are a nice time to sort of, if you've got any concerns or any questions, where we can have a little catch up. And we do sometimes, some of our learners do our reviews a bit sooner if they need that little bit of extra support, or I mean, sometimes the employer might say, can you come a bit sooner? And we can sort of arrange that.
We've got our assessors go out, don't they?
Yeah,
to do
we've
that.
got some really good assessors working here. And we do the reviews. So at the moment, we do the reviews have been going on remotely, but we are getting back out into the workplaces now, which is really good. I think it's really nice for the apprentices and the employers to kind of see somebody and put a face to the names and things, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
And I think the assessors like getting out the office.
Getting away from us.
Yeah,
Not gonna
earache.
lie.
Do the apprenticeship, so when you're looking at taking on an apprentice, is there like a minimum educational standards that you need to look for, or can anyone sort of go forward towards the apprentice? Do they have to have like GCSEs and?
Anyone can do an apprenticeship. So if they don't have their English and Maths GCSEs, they will have to do functional skills as well, which they do through us and we deliver to them. So it's not sort of, if they don't have their GCSEs, it's not sort of a deal breaker. They can still come on the apprenticeship and they'll work towards getting their level 2 functional skills alongside doing their apprenticeship.
And there is support for apprentices with learning difficulties. Well, they can get longer than the 12 months, can't they? With them?
Yeah.
So they will give support for anyone with dyslexia or anything like that.
I've never actually hired on qualifications. I've always hired on sort of values and attitude and skill.
That's what we do, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I'm just looking through my questions now. I think we've almost covered. So one thing I was quite interested in, we've got a lot of groomers who are either mobile groomers or they work from home or they work in their sort of garages or from a shop. Is there like a minimum standard of like where they work from, or could someone who works from their front room have an apprentice?
Yeah.
Would that work?
Yeah, anyone can have an apprentice.
I worked from the garage and had an apprentice.
Yeah,
so,
you learned from your garage,
yeah.
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 So yeah, as long as you can sort of commit to having an apprentice, and
the main thing is give them the training and that they required, so that they're washing the dogs or prepping them and that sort of thing. That's all that the requirements that are needed. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it in your house or in the the mobile van.
As long as you've got like sort of your employer's liability insurance and everything in place, then it doesn't matter if you're a massive chain of dog groomers or you're a one-man band in a converted summer house, does it? Cool.
And I'll keep losing my train of thought here because I'm looking at who's watching. I was going to say, is there a minimum number of hours that you need to take an apprentice on for? I know ours is sort of 40 hours, but.
So if you're taking an apprenticeship on and they're going to complete their apprenticeship full time, so within 12 months, well, hopefully within 12 months, you need to provide a minimum of 30 hours.
They can do it part-time, but it will take longer.
Yeah, so you can kind of then give them 2 years to go over 2 years, and then they need a minimum of 16 hours. It doesn't, if you have an apprentice sort of full-time as well and you get up to the 12 months and they're not finished, it's not the end of the world. They can still carry on their apprenticeship. It just obviously means the employer then does have to pay them the minimum wage for their age group, but they can still complete their apprenticeship if it does run over the 12 months. So we do give up to sort of 2 years to do it, but we would encourage to get them done.
I think most employers want them sort of boxed off within the first 12 months.
And out of all the people you deal with, what normally happens to the apprentice at the end? Do you find most people keep them on and offer them full-time employment, or is it 50-50 or?
I think it's probably 50-50, isn't it? All likes of our trendies, because like we obviously have apprentices within our company. Most of them are kept on.
Yeah, I think we've kept on the majority, haven't we?
but other companies, and bearing in mind, we don't just have dog groomers, we have doggy daycares and kennels, and some of them have struggled, haven't they, with COVID-19, unfortunately. So you can put an apprentice on hold, pause, if you're going through difficulties, which is nice to know. So you're not stopping that apprenticeship, but you're putting them, if say to go furlough or anything like that, you can put it on pause. So that's worth knowing, because these kennels have had it quite hard during COVID-19, to be fair. A lot of businesses have actually closed, haven't they?
Yeah, so they can. So say we get hit with another lockdown, we can put our apprentices on pause.
Yes. Yeah.
Or furlough. Is it furlough? Do they get paid there, or is it just pause?
They can get furloughed, and they can still do the work while they're furloughed.
Right.
But if some, like, it's mainly the doggy daycares and the kennels that will pause the apprenticeships.
But the apprentice can still work towards doing their any work, obviously, because they're not in their workplace. They can still sit at home and continue doing their theory work, and we'll still very much support them with that. So that's a good one, because we did furlough a couple of ours, didn't we? And
but they still did the work.
They still did their work, and it gave them a bit of time to sort of catch up, really, didn't it?
Or not,
yeah.
Supervision
not
required.
Not name anyone.
They might be watching. One thing that when we were advertising for our apprenticeship, we did get quite a number of applications. But when we started looking at what they'd done at school or colleges, we started to realise that a lot of them had done the level 2 animal welfare apprenticeship at a college. So they still carried on applying, but that's a no, isn't it? They can't apply for, they can't redo the apprenticeship. They won't fund them to put them through the apprenticeship again.
Not the exact same
You can't do the exact same one. So, like, for example, we've had people that have done animal management at college, but then have come and done an animal care and welfare apprenticeship. Right. But you couldn't do the exact same one. It would have to be, something slightly different, so that they're learning something new.
And also, interestingly, it used to be that you couldn't do an apprenticeship if you had a degree, but they've changed that now, so that you can actually have do an apprenticeship even though you've got a degree.
Yeah, and be prepared for that, because when you put that application out, you will get all manner of people. We had people with firsts come apply for an apprenticeship, and you're looking at these application forms thinking, do you realise that the level that you're going to be going down to and the pay and stuff like that? And it was quite heartbreaking in a way that these people have gone through university, but maybe they realise it's something they want.
On the flip side, when I decided that I wanted to come out of teaching, and I was applying for these kind of positions because I did want to retrain in a different area, I was just getting knocked back left, right and centre, because
they say you're overqualified.
Or they just didn't see me as a relevant sort of person. So I think, like, we've had like applicants like that, but then we've had
a trade though, aren't they, which they they can use for life.
Yeah.
It's not just a piece of paper, they're actually getting a trade, and that's really important.
Yeah. Going back to the Laura's just asked a question. If you take on an animal care apprentice, and after they've completed that, if they want to carry on training as a groomer, can they then do the dog grooming apprentice once it's available?
Yeah.
So could they go on to do the next apprenticeship?
Yeah.
And how does that work wages wise? Would they stay on the apprentice wage, or do you think they'd have to be paid sort of minimum wage for their age by then?
If it's an apprenticeship, they can have you pay apprenticeship wage.
But if they've done an apprenticeship and then they're going on another one, I think because it's a different apprenticeship, I think that's something we'd have to double check, isn't it? But I think because it's a different apprenticeship, I think that they could stay on apprenticeship wage, but
shall we check that?
We will double check it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that ethical, does it?
No,
either.
It doesn't.
You just.
But we've had like people that have done an apprenticeship with one employer and then come to us and done a different apprenticeship with us, and they've been on apprenticeship wage twice. Don't know if it's any different if it's with the same employer or not, or how. I'm not 100% on that, but that's something we can double check and get back to you on the
So-
wage side.
So our Natasha, she could do her animal care apprenticeship this year, and then probably when she's finished it, the dog grooming apprenticeship will be open. So we could then put her through that apprenticeship as well, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Interesting.
there will be different. It is a different apprenticeship. There's lots of different
It's just the
things to learn on that one.
financials, isn't it? And as Bill said, it's the ethical side of it as well.
Yeah.
I think,
So-
yeah, because I think I'd want to, if they've been with me 12 months and, you know, being a really good member of staff, and obviously they're then more like a high-end prepper, possibly doing grooming, I think they deserve to have the minimum wage, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, we'll double check it. I can't say, because otherwise, effectively, you could just carry on putting your staff through.
But what other
Lots and lots of-
apprentices could be
Yeah,
eligible?
I have to have a look at ours. But you could just keep putting them on apprenticeships, couldn't you? So there's got to be an end somewhere. But yeah, we'll double check the
rules
get that
on that one.
confirmed on that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Hannah is asking where's best to advertise for an apprentice.
We've always we just use like websites like Indeed, don't we, or our Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But mainly we get the best ones I find are from Indeed. However, you do have to be careful when you're advertising, because you don't have to sponsor, but you can get caught out and it can cost you quite a bit. So just be careful when you use Indeed that you don't push the wrong button and end up having to pay.
If you're looking for an apprentice as well, we can always sort of out on our social media, and we are getting a little tab made onto our webpage on like sort of live vacancies and stuff as well. So we can, if anyone does want any help hiring one, they can.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll put it out there.
The government do have an apprenticeship board, I think, like a notice board that you can advertise on. We initially put our advert out onto Facebook, so you know you're reaching all of your followers, and then obviously they share it. So you ask them to share it on Facebook, and then that goes out to all of their friends and family. So quite often you pick up family members that are interested in dog grooming, or I asked my neighbour who works with young farmers, and I always think, you know, that kind of person that's willing to be on the farm, we do quite well in a dog groomer. So he put it out on their Facebook page. So it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to pay, do you, to find your apprentice?
I think as well, like we have local to us, like a careers sort of centre, who are very active on social media as well, but they have a place where you can actually go and they advertise all sorts of different apprenticeship vacancies for employers. So it might be worth looking around your local area as well and seeing if there's anything like that available to you.
One question we were discussing before we came on was, what's the difference between an apprenticeship and someone on the Kickstart scheme? So I think that's quite important, because the government have put out a lot of information lately about Kickstart scheme and apprenticeships, and I think we need to know the sort of differences so that when we are going out looking for someone or advertising for someone, we know what we're looking for and why.
I think like the most noticeable differences are if you're employing somebody on a Kickstarter, they have to be on universal credit. You might not always get the sort of right applicant you want, because obviously when you're on universal credit, your work coach makes you apply for sort of, you've just got to apply for jobs, and
we've had examples of that.
We really have.
Yeah, of people who have been on universal credit and been told that they've got to go for, we've had people on our dog grooming courses who've in the middle of them and they've been told that they have to go and apply for a job. They don't have a choice. So therefore that employer is going to get somebody who maybe have been forced, who doesn't actually want that job, whereas your apprentice, they want the job. They've got the commitment there and the passion there, which is really important.
As well, like with to have Kickstart is a great way, but we've put an ad out, haven't we, to get some Kickstarters in. But I think especially for like smaller businesses that want a specific apprentice or extra pair of hands to learn how to dog groom, it might not always be the best route to go down, because it's only 6 months and it's only sort of intended for basic training, not
And-
sort of your in-depth training that you get on an apprenticeship.
It's got to be a new role as well, like a new position. So you've got to create. So you can't give them an existing role within the company.
Yeah, or if you have an
Right.
existing member of staff that you would like to put on, you could put them on an apprenticeship, but you couldn't put them on a Kickstarter, and you can't get rid of somebody to get somebody else in to put on a Kickstarter either. As well with the Kickstarter, you can only have a person up to the age of 24. You can't have somebody over the age of 24, and you don't get a sort of your recognised certificate at the end of it, whereas your apprenticeship, I think a Kickstart is more of what we've kind of dwindled it down to, is it's more of a quick fix, or if it's not
Also, sorry to interrupt, Nikki, but for your cash flow, it's quite difficult because you've got to pay them the minimum wage, but you don't get paid until a month. It's supposed to be a month, but they don't pay. They pay after the month, so it's a long time to be waiting for your money, which is fine if you can afford it. But if you're a small establishment, I suppose the carrot is, oh well, you're getting all the wages paid for you, but when you've got to have it in advance. So, and you're waiting. It's like anything, they say it's a month, but this Kickstarter's new, and there has been teething problems, and there's a big long waiting list to get on it. And then obviously when you get on it, you're told, oh, you get a £1,500 startup to help you. Well, there's a wait for that. So it's just making sure that you can maintain the cash flow, because with any business, that's really important to have the funds there to pay that higher wage.
Yeah, I think when I looked into it, it was more to take people into your business and teach them basic skills, or basic skills that make them employable when they leave your business. And I think a lot of people get excited because the Kickstart scheme, the government will pay their wage for you, whereas an apprentice, you have to pay the wage. But like you said, are you getting the same sort of dedication that you might do from an apprentice? And are they there for the same sort of reasons that you might do when you're recruiting an apprentice?
I think if you wanted to hire somebody to sort of stay in your company and be able to grow and develop them and train them right through, I think an apprenticeship's probably better, in my opinion, because they're getting more specialised training, because obviously they've got the training provider as well, delivering some training.
Cool. Well, we've gone over an hour, so probably let you get on with your evening. What's your plans for the future? What's the plans for Northern Education and Training? Have you got more apprenticeships being launched, or more courses being developed?
I think we're sort of focusing, aren't we, as well, about developing our assessor apprenticeship and our education ones and our business management ones and leadership ones. But to be honest, our animal care has just been so popular. It has completely overtook all the others.
And that's where our passion is really with the animal care, to be honest with you. But Nick, yours is more education as well, isn't it? Whereas with me, I'm quite happy with the animal care. But I don't have a choice.
And we're really excited for the dog grooming apprenticeship, aren't we?
Very much so, yeah.
What do you have any insights that you can share? Do you know what that's going to sort of involve, or?
Well, it's been all submitted now, hasn't it?
We could tell you, but then we'd have to kill you.
Exactly.
Try it.
No, it's all submitted now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gone
also
through.
under review, so hopefully by the end of the year it should be available.
Do you think this is going to be proper hands-on, clipping and scissoring and things like that?
Yeah, there will be more.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. And if people want to get in touch with you, we'll obviously put all your links and details in the comments, but you're you're all over the UK, that you don't have to be in your county or near you to work with you. It's all online, isn't it? It's all like this, over Zoom.
And
through
we
portals.
are looking for animal care assessors around the UK. If anybody knows of anyone or wants to get involved.
So what's the criteria for an animal care assessor then?
So our assessors, we like to have an animal related qualification. So if they were delivering the animal care apprenticeship, they might be someone that's got that apprenticeship themselves or got their level 3 dog grooming and some experience in training. We would like your assessor's qualification and your awards in education as well, but that is something that we can also deliver. So if you've got the sort of experience there and you just, you know, we need the piece of paper, then we can deliver them qualifications as well. So
we can put you through them.
Yeah.
It's a good one to have as well, especially if you're going to be looking to take your dog grooming business into a training business, because to deliver OCN qualifications, say, you have to have that certificate, or AET certificate, don't you, to teach?
Yeah, so we have obviously a training academy, and then we have satellite centres as well, and they have their awards in education and their assessors as well. So, and our tutors do or are working towards them.
So you want freelance animal care assessors?
Yes, please.
Yes. Anywhere in particular in the UK that you really need them?
Yeah, where do you live?
I don't know if Emma's watching this, but I'll give her another nudge. She probably needs to get in touch with you.
Kick under the table, please.
So Kent's one of them. Anywhere else, or just everywhere?
Just we kind of dotted around, sort of
Milton Keynes, is it Milton Keynes Way, London Way? Yeah, so Bristol, yeah, it's another one.
Right. So what's the sort of work they're required to go into the dog groomers and liaise with the employer, liaise with the apprentice?
Yeah, so they'll be sort of setting work for the apprentice, they'll be monitoring the progress, marking the work, doing the 6 weekly reviews, kind of being on hand for the employer as well.
Can be home based as well, so it's nice.
Yeah, you know, obviously we're 4 hours away, I think, from you, aren't we, Bill? Or 3? A
bit more, maybe, yeah.
So
I don't know.
About 4.5, actually, I think, because we were gonna, So when Emma comes on board, she can work from home. We won't make her drive 4.5 hours to the office every day. And yeah, it's all about kind of tracking learner progress, assessing the work they're doing, setting them the work, liaising with employers, getting the employers involved, kind of reporting back to us and working
they have a line manager that will support them as well, so the line manager will be able to help them if they're struggling with, you know, any of the marking, or just keep tabs on them for that, you know, to give them that support and help.
And it's all just about kind of like generating any new resources, because everyone new that we've had come in has got new ideas again, haven't they?
Yeah.
So,
well, we're lucky because they all seem to be IT specialists that come.
I know one of our assessors is a dog groomer, but is also, well, was an IT teacher as well. So she's
awesome.
Hasn't she? She's like our angel.
Yes.
So it also gives people another. Yeah, I've unpaused. My boys are probably playing on the PlayStation or something, but it gives people another revenue income as well, another revenue stream, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll go and kick Emma in a minute and say that what you're doing. Get in touch with Nicola and.
Yeah, please.
So. So anyone that wants to offer an apprenticeship, yourselves, you do it all online. It can all be done within their shop or their home or their mobile van. It's all done via portals. They don't pay you anything. The government pay for the funding, and there's a little incentive there as well for them. I think that's probably, that sums it up, doesn't it?
Cherry on the top.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that funding comes and goes. At the moment, the government are pushing the apprenticeships, but they can always pull the plug at any time. So it's really important, if you're going to do it, you know, now's a really good time to do it. And you know, I've worked with you guys with our apprenticeship, and it's been like really good. It's been really easy to sort out. So I definitely recommend you guys. So we'll put all your links in the comments. No more questions in the comments, so I think we'll let you get on with your evening and go and do some paperwork probably.
Another coffee.
Definitely another coffee. I'll have a lovely evening.
Yes, and you. Take care. Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Bye.